Thanks very much for staying with us. Time now for Eye on Africa with me, Georgia Calvin-Smith. Tonight, four-time Africa Cup of Nations champions Ghana have rewarded tournament hosts Equatorial Guinea with a 3-0 win in Malabo. That means the Black Stars will face down the Ivorian Elephants in the final showdown on Sunday. Unfortunately, the game is interrupted by stoppages after Equatorial Guinean fans flood the pitch and riot police are called on to protect Ghanaian fans. Nigerian extremists continue to wreak bloody revenge among Cameroonian civilians. Niger announces it's readying itself to add troops to the growing regional crackdown on Boko Haram. Also, a fortnight on and internet and text are still down in Kinshasa. Congolese businesses relying on communications are struggling to cope with measures taken 2 weeks ago in the midst of unrest. First up, in Equatorial Guinea, chaotic scenes erupted at the Africa Cup of Nations semi-final between Ghana and the hosts. Police had to use tear gas to disperse angry Guinean fans who forced a stoppage with just 10 minutes to go, and the Black Stars winning 3-0. Security had to protect Ghanaian fans and had to clear spectators from parts of the Malabo Stadium. The game was restarted and Ghana's place in the final assured, but it was a close call. Katerina Vitozzi is in Accra for us amidst Ghanaian fans who were watching that very tense match. Katerina, quite the dramatic end there. How were fans where you are reacting to the confusion as it played out?
Well, I'm here in a fan park here in central Accra. There's a great big screen just to my right, and there are about 300 fans that were watching the match. And they did sit patiently during the seemingly never-ending interruption, and most did leave after the final whistle. There weren't the usual celebrations that normally accompany a Ghanaian win, to be honest. I did manage to keep one fan to stay with me. Kennedy, you were watching the match. 3-0 to Ghana before the interruption. Did that interruption somewhat tarnish the final result, in your opinion?
I say apart from Ghana winning 3-0, it just took away the celebrations. But beyond that, Equatorial Guinea were not going to be a match for the Blasters of Ghana. We had not met them before in any competition, and so meeting them in the Cup of Nations, they were the host nation, but I don't think the Blasters of Ghana were afraid of the Equatorial Guinea side. In terms of pedigree and experience, the Blasters are miles ahead of Equatorial Guinea, and so I think they just need to even tell their stars that they got 3-0 today. But in all certainty, I think the Black Stars have taken one game after the other. We lost against Senegal in the opening game. We came up against Algeria. We won by a lone goal. Then we came up against South Africa. We won by 2-1. There was also Guinea, where we were able to beat them by 3-0. So, meeting Equatorial Guinea, they are minutes of African football. In terms of history and what have you, it doesn't come to the class of Ghana. I know the Blast are actually going for the ultimates now.
So there you hear it. Still confident that Ghana can perhaps win this tournament despite those interruptions and despite some of the chaotic scenes that we've seen here this evening.
So, 4 times tournament winners, Ghana are now going to be facing down Ivory Coast on Sunday for that final match. Do you think that the shake-up at this semi-final game has at all rattled fans' confidence at all?
I don't think this interruption per se will rattle the confidence of fans, whether indeed it will rattle the confidence of the players. However, talking to the fans, there are 2 names that they are starting to feel concerned about, and these are 2 key players in the Ivorian side, Yaya Toure and Wilfried Bony. And now these are 2 players, European reputation, European pedigree, and going into the final, which will be a rematch of the 1992 final, which was an AFCON Cup between Ghana, between Ivory Coast. It's really a clash of the African titans, and it's certainly going to be nail-biting from start to finish.
Well, thanks very much. Katerina Vitozzi there for us, keeping an eye on Ghanaian fans' reactions to a nail-biting semi-final match between the Black Stars and Africa Cup of Nations host Equatorial Guinea. On another news, scores more people in the Cameroonian town of Fotokol have been killed in a fresh onslaught by Nigerian militants. Boko Haram fighters on the run from a military offensive by Chad, Nigeria and Cameroon continue to take their revenge out on civilians. Officials say that homes, mosques and churches have been torched. Hundreds of villages are trapped and being used as human shields by the extremists. African Union and international officials met in Yaoundé on Thursday to finalise details for a multinational force to tackle the insurgents, and Niger is set to send troops to open a northern front to current operations. Well, Nigeria's presidential vote is set for February the 14th, just around the corner. And on Thursday afternoon, the Council of State tried to put to bed speculation that the poll could be put back because of logistical disruption caused by the Boko Haram crisis. Well, earlier in the day, news that President Goodluck Jonathan was holding a meeting to discuss the matter infuriated critics of the idea. Our correspondent sent us this report.
On Thursday, protesters, dismayed at rumours that this month's presidential election could be postponed, took to the streets of Abuja.
We are here to register the feelings of over 170 million Nigerians that the election must proceed. This election was fixed 1 year ago.
The question of possible postponement was first raised by Nigeria's National Security Advisor last month. He warned that the National Electoral Commission couldn't distribute enough voter cards by the original February 8th deadline. The problem lies with the hundreds of thousands of people in the northeast who have been displaced by the Boko Haram insurgency. INEC tried to calm fears, saying that though the voter ID card distribution deadline could be pushed back, the poll itself would stay put. The body claims it's doing all it can to allow the displaced to vote.
We've made preparations for IDP voting at the states where there are IDP camps. But I cannot tell you the exact number of IDPs that collected their cards.
Whatever the difficulties, protesters fear a delay to the poll would just undermine democracy.
We as Nigerians, we are saying that no to election postponement. One thing I want to tell Nigerians is that shame on them, shame on all of us. The reason why these things keep going on is because a lot of things go wrong and we don't demand.
Thursday's demonstrators were later reassured. Following the meeting between President Jonathan and top political leaders, the country's Council of State announced that the Valentine's Day poll would go ahead as planned.
Now, corruption is also a key concern amongst Nigeria's political elite. On Thursday, the country's national oil company, the NPDC, claimed that it had been cleared of allegations that it had somehow redirected $20 billion owed to the state. An international audit was ordered after former central bank governor, Lamidi Sanusi, pointed out the discrepancy last year. The forensic investigation reportedly found that the missing amount was down to a processing delay and ordered that a separate $2 billion be paid to the government. Tunisia's coalition government received the green light from Parliament on Thursday, led by the secular Nida Tunis party. It's the first to be formed since the landmark post-revolutionary elections last year. The cabinet was announced earlier this week after the Prime Minister dropped his original lineup when moderate Islamist party Ennahda warned that it would vote against any cabinet from which it was excluded. It now takes the Labour Ministry and 3 Secretary of State posts. Meanwhile, President Beji Caid Essebsi is in Algeria on his first official overseas visit as head of state. The two countries share a common challenge in battling Islamist extremists hiding out in the Chambi Mountains bordering Algeria. Now, 2 weeks after protests against President Kabila erupted in the Democratic Republic of Congo, the government is still not allowing the public in the capital access to mobile data. It says it's in order to keep people safe. Activists see it, though, as a way of cracking down on dissent. Take a look.
They can make calls, but can't text or go online. 2 weeks ago, the government imposed a communications blackout in Kinshasa, an attempt to quell deadly protests against President Joseph Kabila. The internet has since been partially restored, but many still can't access it, and mobile data remains restricted.
Making calls is expensive, whereas with SMS, you can correspond for a long time and have all the details you need from your contacts. So it will hit people hard, people who are already poor.
Demonstrators had been using text messages and social networks to organize rallies, protesting an attempt by the president to change the constitution in order to prolong his stay in office. This online coordination, an echo of how the Arab Spring began, something the government doesn't want to see here. With phone credit rendered useless for many, businesses are starting to suffer.
Fewer people are buying from us. We've seen a drop in our income. It's difficult to make a profit.
It's the second time in 4 years that the government has shut down mobile phone services. The last time was in a bid to curb riots, when Kabila won a second 5-year term in a disputed election.
Well, that's it for Eye on Africa. Do stay with us, though. A short break and more coming up.
Reporters. In India, there is a new type of jihad, the love jihad or the love war. The aim? To seduce young Hindu women and convert them to Islam. The accusation is made by Hindu fundamentalists. According to them, dozens of women are being trapped and sometimes raped. Yet, neither the law nor the police acknowledge it is happening. Where does the truth lie?
Reporters on France 24 and France24.com.